I'm joined now by Keith Merker. He's the CEO of WeedMD Inc., trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol WMD. Keith, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Keith, you recently announced a new program in partnership with Lyft called Color. And it was interesting to me. It really got my attention right away because it was spelt C-O-L-O-R, which is counterintuitive for a Canadian company, but there was some logic and some thought put into that. Give me an overview of what drove that process and what exactly is Color.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And we're terribly excited in the WeedMD camp to roll out what is really our first brand beyond that of WeedMD, which is where we started and where we still are. But it's so exciting to have something new to represent.
This is a whole new brand.
This is a brand new brand.
Oh, wow.
And how we will be representing ourselves in the adult use market here in Canada and hopefully beyond at some point in time.
Color. So why the name, why the spelling of the US one? What made you pick that?
So we have a very, very great marketing team at WeedMD. We've got our SVP of marketing is a guy named Brett Moon, who came over from a company called Mosaic Sales Solutions, where he ran actually their cannabis practice for a number of years, and had a lot of great insight into what our peers in the space were doing, what they were thinking, how they were going about the exercise of creating brands. And you know as well as I, there's been a whole bunch of new brands that have come to market over the past 12 months as people try and sort of get ahead of this game and stake their claim. We wanted to think about things differently. We wanted to think about cannabis differently because cannabis is something that defies any traditional sort of pigeonholing, as you know, as a product. Is it medicine? Is it recreation? Is it wellness? Is it nutraceutical? What is this thing?
Yes to all of the above. And the answer is
yes to all the above.
Exactly.
So we didn't want to, as a company coming out with a brand, dictate to you, this is what our brand is, and this is what it stands for, and this is what it should be, this is the occasion of use, and all the rest of that kind of stuff. We wanted to create something that was a little more all-encompassing, something that would be up to the individual to decide what this is. And so we hired an amazing group of people at an organization called Sidley. As a side note, Sidley is the same group that came up with a campaign that you've probably heard of called We the North, which one might argue has contributed immensely to the success we've had here with our homegrown Toronto basketball team.
Right.
So same group of people working on this Color brand. And the MO behind it really is that the world has changed to a place where it ain't your mom and your dad's world. It ain't the world of the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. It's not a world that used to be seen a little bit more black and white. It's a world where the lines are being blurred. It's a world where we want to see things in color. It's a world where the old truths need not apply. And so
we don't need to pay attention to trivial little details like spelling color with an extra U, because it really doesn't make any sense at the end of the day. I've realized that.
It's not meant to be necessarily, when I first looked at it, I thought it was a spelling mistake.
Right.
But when you look at the word in and of itself, there's a nice symmetry to the 5 letters, number one.
Is.
We wanted to stand apart from the Canadian spelling of the traditional word color, but yet reference what color meant to this brand and what it stood for. And so that was sort of the thought process behind it. The packaging looks incredible as packaging can look in the Canadian marketplace.
Right.
And I think that the folks behind this endeavor have done a tremendous job, and we're terribly excited to roll out the Color brand across Canada.
Well, I can't wait to see it and try it, more importantly.
Absolutely.
I want to just touch on that aspect for a moment because it's interesting to me, and the limitations on variation in color that you can put on labeling if you're going to sell cannabis in Canada as a licensed producer is roundly criticized, and most marketers are horrified by this idea that we can't really brand cannabis, differentiate it in a visual way without running afoul of these advertising rules. From your experience with those rules, do you get the sense that that is always going to be the case, or at least for the foreseeable future? Are they going to ease up on those and sort of make them more aligned with like alcohol advertising rules, which doesn't have such restrictions?
The only thing I can say for certain is that there will be no certainty.
That is certainly certain.
Yeah. No, change is the only constant here in this
Right.
in this crazy market, in this crazy industry. Whether things go to a position where the door opens more and allows us to be more freedom in the way that we market and brand things, or whether it shuts further, like we're seeing, for instance, in the tobacco world, I really can't answer to. But I do believe, fundamentally speaking, from the 30,000-foot stand or viewpoint, that the regulators have taken a stance that they would leave the door shut to begin with, and it was always easier to open it up over time versus taking the other route and allowing a free-for-all and then deciding where they would crack down.
Right.
And so I do believe overall that we'll see an opening up of opportunity when it comes to the regulatory regime. Whether that transcends itself into the actual specifics around individual packages, I can't say at this point, but certainly do hope so.
Does that represent a challenge for you in projecting a brand like color, which has so many connotations about color, where you're restricted to red, black, and yellow?
We're not necessarily restricted to red, black, and yellow.
No?
So you will see more coming out than red, black, and yellow. Now, remember, the yellow is the warning label,
Right.
or sorry, the health warning, and the red is the warning label for cannabis. And so there are other colors available to us. It's just restrictive as to how we use them.
Right. And do you find that a challenge that you have to overcome?
Everything's a challenge.
That's a good point. All right, Keith. tell you what.
Everything worth doing is a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so how soon till we see color on the shelves?
So we're rolling it out in early June, and so currently, actually, product is leaving our facilities and heading off to the provincial agencies and distributors, and we should be on the shelves sometime later this month.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled and order some.
Please do.
All right, Keith, that's a great update as usual. Let's leave it there. We'll come back to you soon. Thanks for joining me again.
Thanks for having me.